If you feel tired by mid-morning, crash by 2 p.m., and feel like you can't even get throughout your day without caffeine or a sweet treat, the problem likely started before you even had breakfast. So today I'm showing you why your first 60 minutes after waking up can either stabilize your energy and hormones for the day or sets off a chain reaction that leaves you exhausted, bloated, and craving everything by 8 p.m.
I wanna heal, I wanna feel like I'm close to something real, somewhere I belong.
Now, if you're new to the show, I'm Gavin Scribolito. I am a functional health coach helping women to stop fighting their bodies and start understanding them. And my mission is to make health, nutrition, and hormones seem more simple and manageable, not overwhelming. I've helped over 200 women transform their energy, body, and their health using our root method, where we find and fix the root cause instead of just managing symptoms. Now, I think it's important to set this up in a way of like, who is this for? Because not everyone needs to focus on this as much, but I think everybody could benefit from this. Now, this is more so for that woman who maybe has been told that their labs have been, they're normal or they're fine and that their symptoms are just stress, but nobody ever actually explained why the fatigue, why the bloating, cravings, and hormonal chaos keeps happening. And a huge piece of that answer starts with what is going on in your body first thing in the morning when you wake up and what you do or don't do in that window. And by the end of this episode, I want you to walk away with an actual morning anchor that you can try tomorrow and actually start to notice a difference from. So what I want to start off with first is going to be obviously what's happening in your body when you first wake up, so you can understand why we want to place these anchors in to start to actually see a shift and to start to notice improvements here in your energy throughout the day and also mood throughout the day. And what this comes down to is understanding the cortisol awakening response. Cortisol awakening response is where your body produces a natural cortisol surge within 30 to 45 minutes of you waking up that is designed to mobilize energy, sharpen your focus, and also prepare your body for the day. And this is healthy. I think cortisol on social media alone has gotten such a bad rap for being like this hormone that just causes all this havoc and all these problems, but you need cortisol. It's quite literally what wakes you up. It regulates your circadian rhythm. It helps you fall asleep. We need cortisol. So I want to be very clear that the problem isn't cortisol itself, it's chronically dysregulated cortisol. So time where cortisol has been elevated for too long, or maybe elevated too long to the point where we have what is known as adrenal insufficiency, where it eventually kind of, gets to a point where it stops producing at such a high level and actually can drop, and you can have low morning cortisol, which is a whole other pattern in itself that can cause a lot of fatigue. But a really big problem that can kind of not really line up with what's going on with this cortisol awakening response is how you set up your day. And most women, when they start their day, and this is a lot of women that have worked with us, and we've helped kind of work through these things, is they start their day by skipping food, going straight to caffeine, and then out their door. And then they wonder why by mid-morning they're crashing, and by the afternoon they feel like they can barely keep their eyes open. And this is because you have nothing to balance that cortisol spike. If you can remember, cortisol is a energy mobilization hormone. So it's releasing blood glucose into your bloodstream. So if we don't have anything to catch that and regulate that, your blood sugar drops, your cortisol and stress hormones can remain elevated longer to try to compensate, and then you're kind of starting your day off with like this low-grade stress already on your body. This is going to set off a cascade of things from dysregulated blood sugar to elevated stress hormones and a nervous system that never quite settles down. And the result is going to show up as things like your afternoon crashes, night cravings can be a big one as well. You can see poor sleep patterns because of that, because it's not regulating your circadian rhythm properly, and that can lead to like this feeling of like tired and wired almost when you're trying to go to bed at night. And that's something that a lot of women have said, like, no amount of sleep seems to be able to fix. And there's two anchors here that I've put into practice that I've noticed the biggest shifts from, not even just with myself, because I've had trouble with this as well, but with a lot of the women that we work with, to be able to actually stabilize energy and mood throughout the day. And the first one here, which is one of the most important ones, is protein. First thing in the morning, within at least 60 minutes of you waking up. And I think protein, if you're not starting to already notice a little bit of a pattern with it, it's not just a muscle building macro. I think a lot of, misinformation on protein is like just information in general on protein is like, oh, it's just to build muscle. You need more protein to build muscle, this and that. But protein has so many roles in the body, and one of those roles is its ability to actually regulate blood glucose and moderate the insulin response. And it does so by slowing down digestion, but also stimulating satiety hormones like peptide YY and your GLP-1 hormone, and it also suppresses your hunger hormone known as ghrelin. And this can directly regulate your appetite and also lead to reduced food noise. And we don't need much. I think a really solid place to start is like for most women, like just starting your day off with like at least 25 to 30 grams of protein. That alone can produce lower glycemic variability throughout the day, and just lead to being able to kind of catch that gradual blood sugar response that we want. And to take this one kind of step further, that I'll usually kind of pair with this is adding a fibrous dense carb into this as well, because fibrous dense carbs are also going to regulate insulin and blood sugar, which can also regulate that smooth energy response. So again, going back to that cortisol awakening response, it's mobilizing energy, mobilizing blood glucose without anything, or maybe just tossing coffee in your system and running out the door. What you're going to have is this pump and dump feeling where now you crash really hard because you have a blood sugar crash. And if you actually give your body protein, fiber, that's going to kind of catch and like sweep this, and it's going to create more of a gradual, stable energy as opposed to crashing and now you're exhausted. So that's what we're really looking to do. We're trying to catch that drop and actually smooth it out so you can maintain steadier energy levels. And it doesn't take much to really do this. Something very simple to start your day off with could be like Greek yogurt and berries. You could do eggs and toast, protein shake and, banana with some peanut butter or something. You could do cottage cheese with some nuts and honey. So something very simple to start your day off and just get something in your system. And, instead of just running out the door, start with that. And then have your coffee, right? Now, the second one, and this one is where things get really, really interesting and cool. I've actually been doing this a lot more myself, and I've noticed a massive shift in just my energy, my mood throughout the day. And it's one of those things that I notice drastically. When I don't do this, it hits me and I feel it. And it honestly helps me to reaffirm wanting to keep doing it for myself. Is such a simple habit. 5 minutes of morning sunlight. If you can go more, beautiful, but all you need is 5 minutes of morning sunlight. Light is the single most powerful signal your body uses to regulate its circadian rhythm. And it sets down this almost like countdown timer in your brain, signaling when melatonin should rise later that night. And research actually shows that morning sunlight exposure is linked to improved sleep quality, faster sleep onset, and also better sleep duration, all from just a 5 to 10 minute habit. So this can have such a massive impact on how you start your day. And one of the biggest ones can also be your mood. And I've noticed this myself because this actually triggers serotonin production, which is also a precursor to melatonin, but it's also why maybe light deprived mornings can feel a little bit heavier and a little bit more flat because of how you're starting your day off. And I've noticed this myself where like on mornings where I don't get that morning sunlight, I just feel like blah, versus when I get that morning sunlight, even if I just let my dog out back on the backyard and I step outside and I just look around and I just, get that sunlight into my eyes, it, can directly influence how my day starts. And I definitely noticed from somebody who used to wake up and pound coffee first thing to now not even needing coffee anymore because of this one habit, this has been a game changer for me. And when I say look at, like get sunlight in your eyes, I don't mean stare at the sun. Okay, we don't want to go blind, but just natural outdoor light. Okay, if I'll go stand in the sun and like close my eyes and like let it hit my face and stuff like that. But like for the most part, just looking around and just like getting that natural outdoor light is really all that we actually need. Now, I think one of the biggest struggles here is kind of twofold. We have how most people start their day and how most people end their day. And this is on the topic of morning routines. You starting your day first thing with your phone and no sunlight, your nervous system's going to pay for that. And what I mean by that is our brain is designed to actually read light intensity and have it anchor our circadian rhythm. We literally have light receptors in our eyes that do this. And Your phone screen emits blue light, which is part of sunlight. Okay, so in one spectrum of it, it's like, okay, cool, hey, it could, play a role, right? Blue light is also one of the things that keeps your brain stimulated throughout the day and like at night and keeps melatonin suppressed, right? But the problem here is the intensity, because sunlight is drastically more intense than the blue light that's being emitted from your phone. And that is not going to emit the same exact response. But the bigger problem here with looking at your phone first thing in the morning is oftentimes the nervous system stimulation you get out of it, not even the light exposure of it. It's the stimulation of the notifications, the content, the scrolling, and how that actually starts your day off with looking at all of this. I actually, Jay Shetty, he's an author, and he was like a monk, like at one point, and he phenomenally brings like monk culture to like modern day society. I read one of his books; it was great. And one of the things he said best that I loved was like when you look at your phone first thing in the morning, it's like waking up and all of a sudden you open your door to like paparazzi coming in and everyone's like asking you questions and talking to you and stuff like that. And it's like how overstimulating that would be. And when you look at your phone, you're looking at all these people these lives and all this content and stuff like that. And it's just flooding your brain with stimulation, and that is going to start your day off on the wrong foot. Now your brain is overstimulated, now your nervous system is overstimulated, and that cortisol awakening response, instead of it being an actual natural process, now it's like this overstimulating process. And that isn't really leading to an actual real anchor in your morning. That alone can lead to now your body's starting the day off overstimulated and boom, 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 boom. Then we start to trickle down. But I would even argue that the even bigger issue here, which is that twofold aspect I mentioned before, is actually your evening habit. Because most people, and I've struggled with this myself, I will be the first one to admit it, I still have my moments sometimes, but being on your phone when your body is trying to produce melatonin and try to wind down when the lights are down and the sun has gone down and whatnot, that's when your body starts to actually produce melatonin. And when you are on your phone, where blue light is proven to suppress melatonin and delay sleep onset, you are directly dysregulating your circadian rhythm. So now your brain is getting this feedback of, it's still daytime, right? So this is where a lot of people can actually end up, even if you get adequate amounts of sleep, waking up and feeling like you're still not, fully restored. Like you can still feel groggy, tired, and then throughout the day, you're like, you don't really feel like you actually got energy from your sleep because your circadian rhythm is still dysfunctional. And that alone can set your morning up for success or failure. So yes, the morning routine plays a really big role and can directly influence this, but how you also wind down at night can play a really big role here too. That alone could be a whole separate podcast, but I just wanted to bring that up because, a lot of times, the morning routine can play a big role, but like morning and nighttime routines go hand in hand in terms of setting and managing a, well-balanced circadian rhythm. Now, why this matters so much in practice is, especially like I mentioned earlier, for that woman who, is maybe dealing with a little bit higher stress, is, currently going to be falling into some of those patterns, or maybe notices that like midday crash. Maybe you're dealing with bloating, fatigue throughout the day, you have some hormonal symptoms or stubborn belly fat. That can likely always get driven back to there being a higher stress load on your body. And when cortisol might be already dysregulated, what we're going to see is your morning routine and your nighttime routine, but most of your morning routines, when we're talking about that, is either going to add to that stress load or it's going to reduce that stress load. And added stress is going to impact things like your progesterone, your thyroid hormone, your estrogen, metabolism, and clearance through the gut. And those are the hormones that are typically driving most of the symptoms that women are experiencing. And I think it's really important to point out that this isn't a biohack. This is what I consider to be a foundational regulation, and it's one of the main reasons why our clients feel so clear and so much better when they start doing this, because your body was already primed to respond to this. Like I said earlier, we have light receptors in our eyes that regulate our circadian rhythm. We have light receptors in our skin. We directly convert the vitamin D from the sun into our body, and vitamin D is a hormone, not just a vitamin, contrary to popular belief, and that hormone plays a really big role in a lot of metabolic factors in your body. So we have research that supports sunlight. We have We have physical practice and proof that it supports it. Like I said myself, I notice on days when I don't get that sunlight how big of a difference that can make. And it's mostly on the days when it's like raining or snowing outside and I'm like, damn, I can't get outside. And I'm like, I just feel way different throughout that day. Like way less energy. I feel more tired. I need more caffeine sometimes. So, that was a direct difference that I noticed in myself and that I see very, very often in clients. Now, I want to give you an immediate action step of how to put all of this into action first thing tomorrow so you can literally get an immediate quick win from this. And I think that one of the greatest frameworks that I use a lot with my clients is like trying it as an experiment. A lot of times when we think of new habits, we think like, oh, we got to keep this up forever. And what happens when we can't keep it up, right? But at the end of the day, we always just want to trial something, right? So what I want to have you try is give this a try for a day, right? Best would be like give it a week, right? But lower the bar, right? Let's say like, hey, just try this tomorrow. Just notice how your day feels different. So what I want you to try tomorrow is to wake up first thing in the morning, drink 8 ounces of water. Okay. Secondly, eat something with protein, at least, like I said, within 30, 60 minutes of waking up, even if it's just something small. Okay. And then step outside for just 5 minutes. No sunglasses, just get some natural sunlight. Again, don't stare directly at the sun, but even if it's just a little cloudy, get outside, right? If it's raining, downpouring, obviously, you're kind of SOL. But, those 3 tiers, start your day off exactly that way. 8 ounces of water, protein meal, ideally something, again, add fiber if you want. Like I said, Greek yogurt berries, very easy start there. And then step outside for 5 minutes. Do all of this before you have your coffee. Then you can have your coffee. But I challenge you to just see how you feel as you go throughout that day with that. And there's 3 things that I want you to really notice. Notice how your energy feels by mid to late morning. Notice how maybe softer that midday crash starts to feel. And then something else you might even notice is that night craving response might feel a little bit quieter. Night cravings can come down to a lot of variables, and that's a whole other podcast in itself. But one of the biggest things that can contribute to more cravings throughout the day is obviously that blood sugar dysregulation. We can see from that disrupted cortisol awakening response, from not having a solid, kind of blood sugar regulating meal first thing in the morning, because of that protein and also that fiber, and that morning sunlight can play a big role with that as well. That's the experiment. Run it for a day. If you feel like it went really well, run it for a week and then see how you feel. And what you'll probably notice is that on the days when you don't get to do that, let's say it's like a rainy day or something, you're going to see the difference from that. You're going to be like, wow, I need to keep doing this. That was my case, and that's what kept me doing it much more often, and I definitely noticed way bigger differences. And again, when I have clients do this, they notice way bigger differences as well. Now, if you want the full 7-day framework that builds on exactly what we talked about today, including a stress load scorecard, 3 daily anchors, not just this one, and a night cravings rescue plan, the free guide is linked in the description below. It's called Feel Energized Again in 7 Days. Download it, and you can start as early as tonight. Now, if this episode gave you something useful, subscribe on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. And please share this episode on your social media so it helps more women to find the show. It's also always very helpful to leave a quick rating and a short review with your biggest takeaway. Also, feel free to screenshot this and actually tag me on Instagram. I would love to actually know how your morning feels different after trying this anchor out. The guide and resources are in the description below. You are built for better, and I will see you in the next one.